Hi, with Shahbaz Choudhry here. Thank you for coming onto my podcast, bro.
No worries, man.
Nudge, respect. So my podcast, Stephen Sulley Study, is basically my take on my ongoing study of people who I believe are motivating, inspiring, educational, a success in their own right. And success is dependent on who we're talking about. It could be financial, it could be loads of different things. And for me, when obviously I got to know you over the years, I find your story quite inspiring, motivating, and I think the audience should really hear about it, because there's going to be certain people out there maybe following a similar sort of line as you and could learn a lot from you.
Appreciate that.
So you're a family man?
I am indeed, yeah.
Athlete?
Yeah, let's say it, yeah.
Obviously look after yourself, well-being, and also a business person. So just for people, there's going to be a lot of people that know you and some people that need to get to know you. So what's your background? How would you describe yourself? Who are you?
So basically, ever since I was young, I was always obsessed with cricket, and in particular fast bowling. I come from a family of sports. My uncle, Zahid Said, his name is, he played cricket at a very high level in Pakistan. And he was actually in the international squad, and he was a fast bowler as well. So growing up, I was always sort of, I remember watching him, my earliest memory of cricket was watching him tour England with the Pakistan under-19 squad. And I remember going to the stadium and watching him play, and it was always quite inspirational watching him, and I wanted to almost follow in his footsteps. I was just playing for fun from there, and then I watched a guy called Shahbaz on TV when I was 13, and he's currently the world's fastest bowler. And ever since then, I said to myself, I want to be the fastest bowler in the world. That's what my dream was always to be. And from that point, I just played cricket as much as I could, just bowled fast, had some highs, tasted some lows as well, which I'm sure we're going to get into. From there, I basically moved away from cricket and pursued entrepreneurship. Again, very lucky, my brother's an entrepreneur, so I kind of picked that up from him and thought that's something I want to dip my toes in. And then in a roundabout way, came back to cricket, and then blended cricket and entrepreneurship right in the end. Which again, I'm sure we're gonna speak about.
So I, like you, brought up in like different sports. Weirdly, it was squash when I was a very, very young age. Mum and dad playing it. So even though there's not a lot of people that I really know really play squash at a young age, it's a bit of a niche I went into. Then I got my uncle's a footballer. Always brought up into sport and always wanted to be a sports person. I just wasn't that good enough. Now when I spoke to you, you were telling me, you gave me a great insight to cricket, because I saw it from a very like vanilla perspective, as in like cricket's cricket, but really you started breaking it down and articulating it for me. And you know, doing fast-paced bowling or bowling is its own little niche in itself and got its own community. So.
It does, yeah.
Can you tell me a bit more about that?
So I mean, how I was fascinated by it was just seeing loads of people on TV bowling at such different speeds. And the first thing I said to myself was that, how can someone so tall be so much slower than this small guy who doesn't look very strong, but he's bowling 10, 15 mile an hour faster than the big guy? So I started to study technique, and I went online and I researched literally everywhere I could find, libraries, speaking to people, coaches, checking online. And one name kept coming up, and that guy's name is Ian Pont, and he's known as the world's best fast bowling coach, and he focuses on technique. And I remember reading his book called The Fast Bowler's Bible, and he also had this course online which I had to pay for. I bought that, and I was very lucky. My dad was always very supportive, and I remember one day he actually said to me, "You read this guy's books, you do all the research on him. Why don't we go and see him?" And I was lucky enough to go and meet Ian Pont and actually be coached by him. And he's the person who really opened my eyes to the fact that bowling fast is a technique, and it's all to do with biomechanics and how you get your body into certain positions and stuff like that. So that was a really big eye-opening moment for me, because it kind of confirmed the assumption I had growing up that it isn't luck, that there is a process to it. So I went to all sorts of extremes to try and understand what those technical requirements are to bowl fast. That took me to South Africa. I remember going to South Africa when I was 18 years old, and I was learning from the coach of the current world record holder, Jan Zelezny, in javelin. He broke the world record like 5 times. This guy's crazy. So I was learning from his coach, and he opened my eyes to something called neuromuscular training. And I called my agent in the UK and said, we need to find a neuromuscular trainer and all sorts.
Yeah.
And he pulled out Ruben's name.
Oh, that's. I was going to ask you actually how you got in contact with Ruben Tabares.
That's what that guy said to me in England. Naeem, his name is. He said we need to go and see Peter Marcasciano and Ruben Tabares.
Okay.
Came back from South Africa and I met Ruben in Windsor, the Costa coffee shop. I met Pete. And Pete was talking to me about neuromuscular training and stuff, which blew my mind again, because all these years I thought being a fast bowler or being a fit athlete is going in the gym and doing weights and doing sprints and everything. But Pete really opened my eyes up to the fact that there's a science to it, and that it's not as straightforward as you think. And then I met Ruben from that, and you'll know as well as I do, when speaking to them about training it's completely different. And it makes me laugh because Ruben hates it when people call him a personal trainer. Yeah. Because he's like, no, I don't personal train. He calls himself like I think as a human performance expert or something like that. Yeah. So yeah, that's where I sort of got into understanding that fast bowling is not a luck, it's a process. And I was obsessed with that, learning that process. And going on later into what pace journal is, I realised that if I was that obsessed, there are going to be hundreds and thousands of other people who are also on that same pursuit for knowledge. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I was going to say as well that I've got my own opinion on this, but I want to hear it from someone like you. So like boxing, for example, they say certain people can bang, like actually hit very, very hard, and they deem it as a natural sort of gift, and other people can't, and they try and work on it. And I imagine that same sort of technique, okay, it's not a punch, but you're putting your whole body into it. There's got to be a certain amount of balance, speed, time, and everything's got to be perfect in order for you to release that ball at the right optimal time. Boxing is going to be very, very similar. So would you support people's opinion that, oh, you're naturally born like it, or you can really develop more power and more like a faster pace bowl?
That is such an amazing question, because that's the one question which does the rounds in all over the world. Ian Pont, he always uses this analogy, and I love it. We've seen 100-meter sprinters get faster. We've seen javelins get thrown further. We see cycling times get quicker. We've seen swimming times get quicker. Why are we not seeing faster bowlers? In all these other domains, we're seeing increases in speed, but we're not seeing it in fast bowling. So in a roundabout way, I do believe you can increase it 100%, because I've done it myself. Yeah. I do believe that there's a ceiling to how fast you can get, but to answer the question, can you get faster or can you punch harder? 100%. Yeah. Because I remember speaking to Ruben and Pete about this, and when it comes to biomechanics. Creating optimum speed or optimum power is the result. It's a domino effect. It's being able to transfer energy from your toe, your ankle, your shin, your knee, your quad, your hip, your core, your shoulder, your chest, your forearm, your wrist, your fingers. It's being able to transfer energy through the kinetic chain. Yep. And you do that technically. Yep. And I believe the people that do it naturally, they just naturally have that technique. Yep. And you can develop it. Yep. I can say for me as a fast bowler that I have 100% increased my speed through technique. Okay. And I'm sure there are boxers out there that have done exactly the same. Are we allowed to know the pace of you throwing it, or is that still to be confirmed later? To be confirmed. There's so many, again, that's the most commonly asked question I get. Okay. And the reason I never answer it is because there's so many anomalies to it. Okay. And funnily enough, through my interviews with bowlers as well, they kind of say the same thing to me, that when we gun someone like indoors, we stand right next to them, hold a gun like this. But in a match, the sensor is like 80 yards down back there somewhere. Okay. And the way it comes up on TV is very different. So I don't know. I like to, I remember when I went to Pakistan, they don't have no guns. Okay. And funnily enough, when you bowl a ball, they go and look at the pitch and they see how much damage you've done to the pitch. Oh wow, old school. Yeah, old school. And it was crazy because I was bowling out there last December and they would go up to the pitch and they'd be like, oh my God, look, he's dented the pitch. Yeah. So he's fast. So that's their way of judging it. Okay. So in boxing, I guess if you knock someone out with one punch, you can bang. Yeah, exactly. So technique. Maybe there might be an argument, and maybe you could say your view on it. But genetically, some people might be a little bit stronger, a little bit more faster. But then you can always work on that. What about nutrition? What part does that play in being an athlete? I think massively.
Yeah.
Just to go a little bit back on what you said, genetically, I also think there are genetic freaks. And I've seen it in cricket. Some people have completely flawed techniques, but they still bowl super fast.
Well, look at a slightly different sport, going back to boxing. We just saw it recently, fantastic fight, Wilder against Fury.
Exactly.
And in the 12th round, most heavyweights don't have the power left because they're knackered. But he knocked down and almost out Fury, and obviously you know what happened, he came back. But I listened to Joe Rogan's podcast this morning, which is Wilder's on it, it's his latest one, because there was one a few weeks ago or a week ago or something where Fury was on it. Anyway, he was talking about being born with this kind of this power, and I thought to myself at that point, does he actually believe that he's been given by almost God this power, or has he had something and really worked at it? And then I thought, how much is nutrition? Because he complains about not putting on weight. It's quite a light, a light
Very
person
light,
for a heavyweight. So I thought, nutrition. What part does that play in it? And what do you think?
Huge, massively. And I remember when I spoke to Ruben, and one thing Ruben said to me, which really stuck with me, is he says, you'll hear this a lot, you are what you eat. And he goes, that's not true. He goes, you are what you ate 6 months ago. So what he was trying to say is that it's a lifestyle, and that it takes time to develop these things. 100%. I've tasted both sides. So I've been superfood, organic, super health freak, and I've been super fat. So I've tasted what my life was like when I was super fit and when I was super unfit.
Right.
And 100%, everything changes. Even from a mental point of view.
Of course.
Even when I got bigger, and I remember when I sat with Ruben at the Mandarin, and he said to me, Shahbaz, do you realise that the way you look right now is a reflection of your mental state? And I said, what do you mean? And he goes, that you've let yourself go. And he goes, it's a reflection of your mind. And Ruben's just a fascinating guy, because he says things like that which stick in your head.
Absolutely.
And 100%, I think, even now, people, funnily, they call me a diva in cricket, because I have to have things my way. In order for me to perform, I've got these diva-ish ways, like I have to eat certain things at a certain time, I have to warm up a certain way, I have my own process, and I feel like if I don't do those things, I won't be able to perform at my most optimum. So for me, nutrition, 100%, it's up there.
So it's a formula. There's nutrition, there's the rest, there's the training. What specific training do you do? Because like you just said, it's not just a case of get in the gym, bang out some weights, do a leg day, do a chest day, do a back day. I mean, when you're specifically going for a certain goal or being the best you can be at a certain thing, there's got to be specific training for that. So what kind of things do you do?
I'm going to answer that in two parts. The more generic and the more specific. So generically, it's being strong, because the stronger you are, the more forces you can absorb and the more forces you can produce. Specifically, and this is another massive thing that Ruben and Pete sort of highlighted to me, as traditionally as fast bowlers, you go to the subcontinent or anywhere like that and you say, how do you get quicker? And they're going to say, get bigger arms, or train your arms because your arms is what's going to throw the ball, and train your chest because that's what's going to sort of give you the power. And when I met Ruben and Pete, they said to me, train the reverse. And I was like, what do you mean? And he goes, if you want to throw that ball really fast, don't develop the ability to throw it fast, develop the ability to stop that arm from moving, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Let me rewire it. So imagine if you rotate your arm really fast at 90 miles an hour.
Yep.
If you don't stop that arm, it's going to be like a windmill.
Yeah.
And that's what Pete said to me. He goes, how do you stop that, Shahbaz?
Yep.
Stopping power. And he goes, you need to have the strength to be able to break. And he goes, that's neuromuscular training. So on a more specific note, it was really breaking down exactly where the forces go through my body when I bowl. There's a study, I think it's 14 times your body weight goes through your front leg every time a fast bowler lands in the crease. So just things like training your ACL ligaments, training your ankles. I used to train this thing, the tibialis anterior. I remember people in the gym used to look at me like, what the hell is this guy doing? I remember Pete saying to me, you need to have strong tibialis. And it was just really getting into finding out exactly what gets hammered when you bowl and making sure those muscles are strong and conditioned. So it ranges: strength work, mobility work, flexibility work, power work, speed work, power endurance work, work, recovery work. So it is a full science.
And sort of how many times a week do you train?
Oh, no, that's where I'm guilty as well, because when I was young, I could train 7 days a week. I have no problem.
Okay.
And this time round, last year, when I was training 7 days a week again. And everyone around me was saying, you need to rest, you need to rest. I never valued rest.
Yeah.
And then I remember one day I left the gym, and it's a 5-minute walk from my house where the gym is. I left the gym, I literally took 2 steps and I collapsed on the floor. And I was just white. I was on the floor and I pulled my phone out of my pocket and rang my brother. I was like, can you pick me up from the gym? And he was like, what? He was like, what are you talking about? He goes, it's 2 minutes down the road, come. And I said, no, Tabs, I can't move, please, just come and pick me up. And I went home and everything was wrong. Like, my eyes were hurting, my eyelids were fluttering like this, and I didn't know what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
I thought, I'm a super fit guy, I train 7 days a week,
Yeah.
I drink veg juice, I eat these superfoods, what's wrong with me? And I started researching it, and it was something called adrenal fatigue.
Okay.
And central nervous system fatigue, which I think is another huge breakthrough in sports science, because I think a lot of young athletes 100% will neglect this, and it's how important rest is, and your nervous system gets taxed on a daily basis. Another thing Ruben talks about nutritionally, we are in a constant state of detoxification. So the oxygen we take in is hammering our CNS. The amount we use our brain, the amount we don't sleep, the amount we train, our central nervous system is being exhausted. And if you do not replenish that, you're going to break down. And there are certain tests that you can actually do now. I've got one on my phone, it's called the Cns Tap Test.
Okay.
Where you basically have to tap your finger on this phone like for 30 seconds, and it gives you a graph to monitor how well you're doing. And just from that, you can assess whether your central nervous system is fatigued or not.
That's interesting stuff. You're going to have to send me that link.
Yeah, no, it's a good one, man. It's a very good one.
Okay, so nutrition, resting, and training. So I knew you. I got introduced to you by Ruben. I think at the Mandarin. It might have been.
No, it was before.
Before
yeah,
was that?
Before, yeah. I'm not
Street.
sure. Yeah, Old Street. That's
in the
one,
vault.
Yeah. The Vault Gym. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And you're a tall guy, presence, and then you kind of. It looked like, from my point of view, I don't want to say falling off, but as you said, as Ruben said to you, that your mindset was changed and therefore your body was reflecting that. So what happened from being so on point, then kind of losing it a bit, now coming back up, this new wave of like excitement, energy, enthusiasm, and dedicating yourself to, your sport, but then also your business, which we'll get onto in a second. What happened there?
I went through a few ups and downs with cricket, and I always say this to my friends, and I actually said this from day one. Cricket will never leave me. I will be the person who walks away from cricket, because I've never actually liked cricket. I've just liked bowling fast. And I always said, if I can't be one of the world's fastest, or the world's fastest, I won't play, because I'm not interested in being out there for 5 days toiling away. For me, it's very long. Being fast and being the best in terms of being known as the fastest bowler, that was always my obsession. And I was facing a few hurdles from technique, and I remember saying this to my friend Fadil, and he laughs, because I was playing a game for Middlesex against Surrey, and I was in the middle and looked around, and everyone around me was smiling and they were really happy. And I had the ball in my hand, and I was like, you know what, I'm playing for my life here. I was like, if I don't do this well, I'm going to get dropped. I'm going to lose everything. I'm going to have no life. And I remember that was a really scary thought at the time, because it was almost a depressive thought, because when I was bowling, I wasn't having fun. I was bowling for survival. Yeah. And I kind of had to take one step back and just reassess everything. Yeah. And at that time, I was luckily to be around Ruben as well, and being involved with Ruben Tabara's fitness at the time. It was a really good opportunity for me, because I saw life beyond cricket, and before I never had seen that before sport. So at that point I thought, you know what, I want to try this entrepreneurship thing, and I want to sort of dip my toes in that. And everywhere I went with my small clients, in my marketing businesses, which I started, everywhere I went, everyone always recognized me as the cricketer. So I found it really hard to be taken seriously as a businessman when everyone was like, oh, you're the cricketer, cricketer, Shahbaz, how's cricket? Yeah. And I was almost like, sometimes I was with my clients and they're looking at me like, cricket? Oh, you're the creative director, like, what's this? So I almost felt like I had to reinvent myself. Okay. And some people might not believe me, but I got fat by purpose. Because I thought to myself, if I change my look and change my identity, people will forget that this guy is the athlete, and they'll take me seriously in my new identity. So I basically ate loads and enjoyed all sorts of crap. And do
you know what? I think you're probably the first, and I believe you, but you're the first person I've ever heard to say you kind of got overweight or fat on purpose. Yeah. I mean, going from someone who's so fit and obviously dedicate yourself to nutrition and being an athlete, then to spin it and to go the opposite direction. I mean, didn't you feel in your heart it was not wrong, but like it was just so incongruent to who you were as a person.
Funnily enough, I always say this. Everyone calls me an extremist. They say you're either up here, Shahbaz, or you're down here. You're either all in or you're all out. So for me, when I decided I'm not playing sport anymore, I didn't even go to the gym. So I think it was a 6-year break that I had. I did not do any training. And I always said this because my mum, she always said to me, oh, you're getting fat. And I always said, don't worry, I'll get it back. But I always knew it's a case of that. When I want it back, I'll get it back.
Yeah.
So I was never really scared that I'm not going to be fit again. I always knew that this is just my temporary way of sort of creating a new identity. And to be honest, it worked. Like, it actually worked because people completely forgot the whole athlete thing. And people that I never met before, they would never have thought this guy was once a sportsman. And I remember for Temuka as well, one of my clients, a professional boxer, he, in his wildest dreams, he would never have thought Shahbaz is a boxer, a cricketer or an athlete. Yeah. So in my opinion, it actually worked.
Do you know what as well, like the psychology of it as well is, and it can work in anything, business, sport, you know, just general well-being. Sometimes you need to kind of slightly lose it a little bit to realise, you know the old saying, you don't know what you've got until you lose it. And it gives you that driving force to come back. I run a sales company. Some of the top guys I've been around in sales, when they have a duck month and they're not the top person no more, and they've earned less than they should have earned and didn't give as much value to their clients as they should have, they bounce back and they become stronger. I see it in boxing as well. Even talking about Rubens training Derek Chisora for the next fight, and I remember when he fought Dylan White for the first time, very, very close fight. I personally think he won that. He had a fight in Monaco where he should have beat that guy hands down, and he lost. And it was at that point I saw in him thinking, this guy now is hit a little bit of a rock bottom. He's going to come back, and he talks about that as well in some of his interviews. So yeah, it resonates with me what you're saying. So on the upswing again. So how big was you? How big did you get?
119 kilos. Well, actually, it was 121.
And what are you now?
89.
89?
Yeah, 89, yeah.
Wow. Because I saw you literally went from just like more of a rounder shape than you are now, but now to proper six-pack and stuff. I see you, I was like showing a pro boxer earlier, you skipping, like you're skipping like a boxer. I see all these kind of different training sessions you're doing. It's really, really inspiring. Do you get people reaching out to you and saying, look, I've been following you and you're inspiring me? And
loads. And that was one of the big reasons why I wanted to start Pace Journal, because of that.
Yeah.
And I found it really interesting because I always say I've massively underachieved in cricket. Like, I know that, and everyone close around me, it hurts them, because they're like, and one of my, you met Fadil, my brother's business partner. Yeah. I remember for so many years he said, you have to do something in cricket, and I always said to him, why? And he was like, no, you don't understand. You've gone too far. He goes, Shahbaz, you went too far in cricket. Yeah. You can't just drop it. You need to get something out of it. And I always thought, I had so many well-respected athletes contact me and ask me for advice, and I thought, you know what? If these guys look to me like this, I'm sure that there are so many more people out there that if they knew my story, they would also look at me in that way as well. Yeah. So it was a big trigger for me to start Pace Journal.
So when I saw you last, so you said it was like, I don't know if it was on purpose, but you were pursuing being the best you can be at what you wanted to be the best at. And during that process, you were looking around thinking, I can't really find too much clean advice or right advice about getting more power, time and everything to perfect what you wanted to perfect. And then you kind of had this idea of Pace Journal, so you're the owner of that. And ever since summer this year, about August, kicked August, off, or maybe a little bit before.
It was July when I had the, this is a funny thing, I've never actually told anyone this, but where Pace Journal actually originated from was my comeback. Okay. And I was actually documenting it as a story. And I was actually writing like entries in there, and that's why I called it Pace Journal. And it was almost my story and my comeback. And I wrote everything about my mindset and the first time I went in the gym as 121 kilos and all the challenges I faced mentally. And I've still got them. I've still got the journals of all of that. And when I decided, when I came back last year, I had this really big reality check where you can't walk away for 6 years and come back and expect to be the same.
It was 6 years, was it?
6 years, yeah.
Long time.
Very long time. And
I thought Tyson Fury when he was out of boxing for 2 years. I mean, honest, 6 years. That's a long time.
That's why I admire Tyson even more, because I know what it's like being away from sport, competitive sport. Not obviously at his level, but being away from sport and then coming back and doing what he did is unbelievable.
Incredible.
But back to what we were saying. I was writing those files and I thought to myself, if I come back and actually do this pace journal is going to be so valuable, because I would have almost documented it, the entire process, how I felt in real time. And then when I decided that I'm not gonna go all in with sport, because age, where I was currently, my current position in terms of my life and performance-wise, I thought this is going to take me another 5 years. And sometimes you have to sit back and ask yourself, have you got that time to commit to it? And I honestly could not do that at that stage. And then I flipped it to, how can I help the world? And that's the question I asked myself. How can I help the world almost learn from my mistakes?
Okay.
Because I do believe, and a lot of my close family members will also confirm this, that the reason I underachieved is because I played so many experiments.
Yeah.
That's just who I am. I'm a researcher at heart. And I thought to myself, all the young kids out there that are going to do exactly the same mistakes that I did, let me give them a platform where I can save them those years, and they can come here and they can learn from people who've already done it and answer those questions. Yeah. When I was growing up, there was no place. Yeah. You have individual coaches, but they all represent one theory. And that's why I always say, like, Ruben has one theory, someone else has one theory, someone else has one theory. One theory cannot, I truly believe one size does not fit all. No. And it's almost like you have to, in life, you have to go and seek information and apply what is right for you. Yeah. And you can get it from anywhere. You can get it from different sources. And I wanted to create that one hub where everyone could come and get information from all types of people. Yeah. And it did not exist until we started it.
Well, part of certainly even this interview and most of the interviews I'm doing with successful people, whether you're in sport, business, nutrition, whatever, is going onto our platform called Mimbosa, which you know about. So for my body and soul, I won't go so much into it right now, but very, very similar to what you're saying. I was personally sick and tired of going onto Instagram, even though it serves a purpose, and just, or even the internet in general, and so many so-called experts, so many different platforms about what you should be eating, how you should be training, the kind of mindset that you should be having. And many would say a lot of the accounts on Instagram or people could be deemed as a little bit fake. So what we're doing now is we're looking to regulate that on our platform and giving the very, very best advice, and it's going to be free. So it's about giving value to the audience, giving free information and making sure they could reach their full potential, basically. So you're kind of like that, but very, very specific to cricket and into your kind of, would I call it a niche?
Yeah, 100% fast bowling, yeah.
So I say a niche, but I hesitated because if you look at in India, it's completely different to the UK. I didn't realise how much pulling power it has in places like India, Pakistan and places like that. So, I mean, I've never been to these countries. I would like to go one day, but just tell me how many fans or how many pro athletes are in this space over there?
In Pakistan and India, you don't go to school, you go to a cricket ground. That to put it into perspective. Right. You don't go to school, you go and play cricket. If you play for your country over there, you're a god. Bad as that sounds, but that's how much they look at you. Like it's
kind of like being a football player or a soccer player. More. Yeah.
I'd genuinely say it's even more. You know how Anthony Joshua is in the UK? That's what these cricketers are like in Pakistan and India. And you've got to remember that because over here in the UK we have so many different sports. So you have so many different types of athletes you can look up to. In Pakistan and India, it is just cricket. Okay. Because they're not very dominant in football or boxing. So when you play for your national team, you are the big guy. Yeah. And again, like I was saying to you off camera, especially in places like India where fast bowling is quite scarce, if you've got someone who can bowl fast, you're a very, very rare commodity almost in that part of the world. So it's a huge, huge market. Now, to be honest, I surprised myself as well because I didn't think it was that big. Yep. I didn't think it was that big until I saw the influx of how many people were interested. And like I was saying to you before, I only operate in the subcontinent. I haven't even gone into places like South Africa, New Zealand, Australia. I've just focused my attention on Pakistan and India, and I can't even handle how much interaction we get in that space.
Yeah. Well, on that note, I mean, you showed me some analytics and the breakdown and everything, which I was blown away with because you're definitely more organised than I am. But you've gone from no following to almost 50,000. I just looked earlier in a short space of time, and that number was 40,000 only 10 days ago or something.
That, yeah.
So exponentially, you're growing at a very, very fast rate, and the irony is fast-paced bowling. But so how did you go from like nothing to all these followers? Because social media today counts for a lot.
100%.
You know, and I think it's important that if you're going to grow your company in today's age and scale it and have the community, you're going to need a good social following. So how do you do that?
Lots of testing. It's funny because a lot of people think I bought followers, and I always say, if only you knew the level of detail we go into with the metrics, you'll realize that I'm almost trying to decode how you grow a social media account. And it's funny because with all my clients, I always prescribe certain things to them. Sometimes I'll put it into action, sometimes they won't. This is the first time I've done it for myself, and to see the results, I've kind of surprised myself as well. A lot of it is testing, so understanding how my audience likes to receive information, and then coming up with different concepts to give them that information. So I'll give you an example. We interview a fast bowler. That interview will be 30 minutes long. So it's a strategy which Gary Vaynerchuk, I'm sure you know, advocates. It's pillar content versus micro content. So we've got this 30-minute podcast. Not everyone can listen to 30 minutes flat out. Not everyone has the time or the concentration to actually do that. So what we do is we take the 30-minute podcast. That's how we actually started. And if you go back in the history of our first few posts, the post was literally podcast with Tino Best is live. Go and check it out. Not much engagement. And then I thought I need to do something to try and get more people engaged. So I broke that 30-minute podcast down into 30 miniature lessons. Okay. So Tino will speak about nutrition, technique, mindset, mentality, working at a batsman. He spoke about all these things in that podcast. I would then break those topics down into what I call pace bites, which are 1 minute mini lessons on that particular subject. That started to do well. I started to see a lot more interaction when people were sort of watching more. I was getting more followers and more views. Then I thought, some people are not understanding their accent. Tino's a Caribbean guy. Okay. So from the subcontinent, sometimes they weren't understanding what he's saying. So then I transcribed it into text, and I started to release pace bites as text. Right. So you could just swipe across and read what he was saying. Okay. That got me more interaction, and more people were engaging. And then I put something out called a quote. So for example, Tino Best says fast bowling is an attitude. You can't be friendly and be a fast bowler. You know, you're the spearhead of your team. You know, you bowl the first ball of the match. You know, you dictate the intensity of the game. That's what a pace bite would sound like. And then Tino said, I don't care if my mum's out there, I'm looking to hurt her. You can't be friendly and be a fast bowler. I took that quote and put a single image post up, and that blew up. I got more likes on that than I got on anything else. And then I thought to myself, hold on, I could take these pace bites. People like the longer form, but then I can also make quotes out of them. Yeah. That did even more. And then I did something called Did You Know, which are like interesting facts. Okay. Tino Best was 5'6", tiny, and he was one of the fastest bowlers in the world. That did even better. So that's how I understood how my audience likes to receive information. And then I wanted to see at what particular times did well. So I had different windows of when I'm going to post, and I tried to gauge the interaction I got back. And I'd done this like, for every post, I think I got like 3 graphs, and I would check at what time I'd get the most interaction when I posted, what particular words, if I use specific words like fast bowling straight in the first sentence, what sort of feedback would I get from that? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So I was running loads of different tests to try and see what my audience wants to hear. And it's just been growing and going from strength to strength from there.
And so you run the account?
I run the account.
So do you, when people are engaging on that platform or in your pages, are you making a point of reaching back out to them? Because I know certain accounts, and we're digressing slightly, but you know, you go on there, you might send a message, you want to know a bit more information, and I don't know whether these people feel too proud, I don't know whether they feel too up their own backside and they've got all these followers and look at me. I personally, even though I've not got a lot of followers, I just try and communicate with as many people as I can, because I believe in energy. If you put good energy out to the world, you're going to get it back. If you're a little bit more like, don't want to know you, how do you approach the social media side of things?
I contact everyone back.
Okay.
And it takes hours and hours, and I'm
And
actually in the
feel
process
it benefits you, yeah?
100%.
Yeah,
If anything, I think that's the reason we have such a strong community.
that's good.
So I feel more people comment because they know they're going to get a response.
Yeah,
And I remember doing that from our first 100. I know our first 100 followers. I know all of them. And I remember because I was following them all back when we started. And one of my friends, he actually said to me, "Oh, unfollow those people, man. It doesn't look good. You're following all these guys." And I said, "You know what? I'll never unfollow them because they were there from the start. I'm keeping them there.
that's good.
They're almost like my. I want to keep them there for life." And I try to respond to as many direct messages. Like now, it's actually impossible because there's too many.
Yeah,
But on the comments, I will respond to every single person. And how I know for a fact that it works is because they'll screenshot it and put it on their story.
that's good.
And they'll say, "Oh my God, I can't believe you replied. You just made my day." And I thought to myself, like, what? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
It takes 1 second
yeah,
to just respond, not literally 1 second, but it doesn't take long to just respond to someone, but it's how they feel when they see that interaction.
yeah,
It's like, just thinking of it back in the day, if I was young and I commented on Shoaib Akhtar's post and he responded to me,
yeah,
I'll be buzzing for the next 2 months.
yeah, yeah,
And I wanted to give that same feeling back to the people that sort of interacted with us.
yeah,
And I'll always, even when they tag us in their posts, I'll go on their profile and comment on their work
yeah,
and say, "Keep going."
yeah,
And I just know how much it means to them.
yeah,
And I feel that's very, very, very important for a community.
yeah. Because the funny thing is, it's called social media, but people are forgetting the social part of it sometimes. They just, for whatever reason, the comment gets forgotten about, whatever. So I think it's important that, to have that engagement. I know as you scale up, it's going to be physically impossible, but where you can, it's just nice to obviously give back. So I don't even know if we just hit home what Pace Journal actually is. So how would you describe it?
I'd describe it as the #1 source of fast bowling information in the world.
Okay.
So everyone that's into cricket will know that there are so many different types of fast bowlers. Pace Journal is the one place where you can hear from all of them talk about how they did what they did.
Okay.
Again, so many people, when they watch, for example, Tino Best bowl, they would love to get inside his mind and understand exactly how he did what he did. And in my opinion, traditional journalism does not cover that.
Okay.
Because in journalism, you cover news. So let's say Tino Best took 5 wickets. Tino, how did it feel taking 5 wickets? Or Tino Best got injured. Tino, what happened? You're injured. How do you feel?
Yeah.
No one will sit back and say, "Tino, how did you bowl fast?
Yeah. Yeah.
How did you train? How did
Yeah.
you eat? What goes through your mind when you're getting spanked all over the place?
Yeah.
How do you come back from that?"
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why we almost attract so much attention, because we're providing insights into the player's mind. And I just think that's very, very valuable if you are a young athlete, to learn from the people that you watch and admire on the TV.
Good stuff. How is it? So Pace Journal, knowing how you are and how you think, you're a visionary. So you're not going to just stop at a few 100,000 followers, probably. How's the actual business going to evolve? What's it going to go into? Because you mentioned before you might have different journals, a link to it. What's that going to look like?
There are so many different sort of elements of cricket. You've got fast bowling is just one. You've got batting. You've got actually more batters than you have bowlers. You've only got 2 or 3 bowlers in the team. You've got 7, 8 batters in the team. You've got spin bowlers, which is a different type of bowling. You've got wicket keepers. So I'm looking to branch out eventually and cover all of those areas and try to hone in on the entire cricket model, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And then we do very well on social media, but I'm also trying to now push more towards our editorial side, which is on the website. So again, taking these stories, some of these stories are inspirational. To give you an example, Tino Best, he was a water boy. He was a water boy for his team.
That's incredible.
And then there was the South African team was touring, and they said, "Tino, do you want to have a bowl?" And he knocked the South African captain on the head with the first ball. And ever since then, people are like, "Who's this kid?" And he got noticed from that. So I'm in the process of writing this article. It's called "The 95-mile-an-hour Water Boy, Meet Tino Best."
Wow.
So we're trying to push more of the editorial side now as well. From a business model perspective, we haven't really pulled the trigger in terms of monetizing on the platform.
I was going to get onto that secondly, yeah.
Because at the moment, we're just looking for that critical mass and trying to grow that community as much as we can. But I feel like sponsorship is a natural place where we're going to obviously head down.
Yeah.
And it's something I'm writing about at the moment as well, because I look at a company called CrickBuzz, and they just provide information and news about cricket. so it's just generic information. You want to know the score, go to CrickBuzz. I believe they have an advertising revenue of 5 or 6 million a year. And I was just going through the mindset of, if I'm an advertiser and I want to advertise on CrickBuzz, yeah, you may have the attention, but how engaged is that audience person in what you're doing, if that makes sense? If I'm coming on to check the score, an ad about, I don't know, Adidas trainers, that might not really hit home with me. But I feel like because we're so niche and we're so specific, we provide a very, very significant benefit to an advertiser.
Yep.
Like if I turn around now on Pace Journal and do a review on a cricket spike or a cricket supplement or a warm-up tool or a specific training method or piece of equipment, every single one of our followers is going to be highly, highly engaged with what we're talking about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
So I feel like the sponsorship side is going to be quite big, and also giving more content. At the moment, we will always give information for free because that's what we do, but moving on to more video masterclasses. So taking that knowledge to the next level could be a monetization strategy for us.
Because you could be like a premium subscription fee.
Premium subscription, 100%.
Yeah.
And then even Instagram released this new feature earlier called the close friends list on stories. I don't know if you saw it.
No.
Yeah,
No.
so you know when you put a story up,
Right.
everyone can see it.
Yeah.
You've now got something called a close friends list.
Okay.
So only specific people who you select can view that story.
Okay.
And just little things like that. So being a premium subscriber of Pace Journal can almost bring you these more benefits.
Yeah.
Or even giving you content before general public.
Yeah.
Because the amount of messages that we get, please, 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 please release this now, release it now. Because every Sunday we release the schedule for the whole week. Oh, I can't wait till Friday, please do whatever you can, give it to me on Monday.
Yeah.
So just little things like that. So there are so many, we could be here forever if I speak about all the ideas I have for monetization.
Wicked. I mean, the main thing is in any business is obviously having some kind of vision, some kind of plan, and having a passion for it. Something that gets you up every single day and you're just full of energy. And I can already tell, or I know that you've got that energy for it. I'd done a episode of my podcast a little while ago. It was along the lines of why everyone should consider taking up boxing. And the reason why I said that is because not everyone wants to fight, and some people have misconceptions of what boxing's like. They think it's a violent sport. There is violence involved, but it doesn't have to be violent. It can be an art. And it's almost like a metaphor to life. Parts of your life, you're going forward and accomplishing things, which is attacking. But other parts in your life, you're going to be defending when things are not going so right. And it's how to stay cool in that time, which is going to allow you to progress later on. Some boxers or people in life, they just give up and say, oh, everything's going wrong, and they just lay down and get knocked out. And then other people just weather the storm and come back. It doesn't have to be boxing, it could be anything in competition. So that transition of mindset from an athlete to now an entrepreneur, a business person, how important is that? Like, because it's transferable, isn't it, that mindset? Like, if you can become a very good athlete in anything, I personally think it's, again, a process in the system. So transferring that out from cricket over to now your business in Pace Journal and other things, how important is that? How much synergy is there?
I love that question because I always speak to my friends when we speak about boxing, because I say to them, you should box. I always tell my friends box. And I always say this, I remember playing a game against I think it's the Royal Navy. It's like these Navy SEALs, the Special Forces, and a lot of them were pro boxers or boxers or something like that. And I remember when I was young, I said, oh, give me some advice on how to fight. And he goes, that's where you're going wrong, son. You don't fight, you box.
Yeah.
It's a difference.
Yeah.
And he goes, the second you start fighting, you get knocked out.
Yeah.
And he goes, it's chess. It's about making moves.
Yeah.
So it is an art.
Yeah.
And the other thing that you asked about the mindset, my mindset hasn't changed.
Yeah.
For me, business is sport.
Yeah.
I look at when you're playing sport and you're trying to create tactics to beat your opposition, it's the same thing in business. I look at all my competitors and I try to have strategies of how I can differentiate myself from them and almost push ahead. But I'm still got my eyes on what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I feel like even if you're in business, you should play sport because it's that competitive nature.
Yeah.
And it teaches you resilience.
Yeah.
Because you'll know it in sport. You're going to take an L somewhere.
Yeah.
And being able to endure that and how to come back from it, if you're having that experience through sport, it will help you when you experience it in business as well. So for me, it is sport. I think Mark Cuban speaks about this as well.
Yeah.
Where he says, actually, when it comes to sport, you go out there and play, like if you're a footballer, you play once a week, or a cricketer once a week. In business, you're on the field every day.
Yeah.
And he goes, this is sport.
Yeah.
Because this is the hardest sport in the game, because you're every day, you're battling so many people.
Yeah.
So for me, the mindsets are almost synergistic.
Yeah.
Because everything you need to be a successful athlete, you need that to be a successful businessman, in my opinion, as well.
Yeah.
Like, you have to have that resilience, you have to have that work ethic, you have to have that drive,
Yeah.
the ability to come back from a setback,
Yeah.
the ability to stay humble when you're on top and everything like that.
Yeah.
All of those things, I think they're the same.
Yeah. I mean, we're currently sitting in Woodbury House. I'm one of the co-founders here. I'm involved with a few other businesses, property, obviously Mimboso, do my own podcast, sales, part of a clothing brand called Dark Circle. And I always say the same thing to people, like the same mindset I have as a boxer is the same mindset I would have going into a new business or a new venture. I know there's going to be some downsides. I know that. I know when you get into a ring, even if you're sparring and it's with a pal of yours who you've been friends with a long time, there is a chance there's going to be that either lucky or unfortunate right hand or combo that's going to get through, it's going to hurt you and rattle you. And it's at that moment where you decide to either lose your cool and throw everything out the window and, you know, throw your plan out the window and just lose it. And as you said, you can get knocked out at that point. And that could be literally or like metaphorically in life. Or you stay composed and you become methodical and you just accept that having a punch in the face or whatever is part of it. It's like when I hear people, if they complain, moan about recessions and stuff. A recession will come. We know that happens every 10, 15 years or something like that. History always repeats itself. But during that time, speaking about people like Mark Cuban or any of the big elite billionaires, they seem to find the opportunity when adversity hits everybody else, how they can thrive in that time. And how important do you think it is, like when things are not going quite right, how to stay really composed, really methodical, stick to a game plan and continue moving forward?
I think it's absolutely critical. And the thing is, we've had so much growth and everything's been quite positive. But in between the last time I seen you, we had our record low. On average, I think we averaged 350, 400 new followers a day. We had like 63 the other day. And everyone around me, all our close, we've got a Slack team with all the guys involved, and they're all like, "Oh my God, what's happened? Oh, what's happening?" And I was like, "Chill, this is good." I'm happy because I was like, now we're seeing something, because now we know we've got to play a different move. So again, it goes back to what you said about adversity, and I feel like you have to have that adversity in order to find new solutions or break new boundaries. So for me, that I love it. I think. When you come up against a hurdle and you have to then, it makes things exciting, man.
Yeah.
To give you an analogy, I always say this to some of my friends who tell me I'm going through a bad time. When have you ever gone on a roller coaster that just went like that?
Yeah.
That's not fun.
Yeah.
It's that.
Yeah.
That's what's fun.
Yeah.
So staying resilient and just keep pushing forward and just remembering that every bad time eventually will turn, it will get better if you just keep staying consistent and staying on that path.
Yeah, definitely.
So for me, very important.
So I talk about when I do like talks to sales guys and stuff, I say plan your work and work your plan. And regardless, whatever happens with the markets, with anything, with how a client speaks to you, they could speak to you in a very rude way personally, which is going to get you back up. The alpha male in you will probably want to tell them to go do this self, screw this self or whatever. But the professional person that has to remain at the forefront of it all has to stay composed and work on that, you know, execute your plan, which is stay very professional and just keep on kind of moving forward in a very, very polite, professional way.
100%.
But I feel that mindset has to be put onto everything that you do in life. 100%. So just to conclude all this then, so Pace Journal right now, so if people wanted to follow Pace Journal, is it just on Instagram and Facebook, or is there anywhere else they can follow it?
We're all over social media, so we're on Twitter, Facebook, YouTube and Instagram, but right now all of our attention is on Instagram.
Okay.
Because I'm trying not to dilute my attention by being in all these different platforms, because I do believe that there is a science to that as well.
Yeah.
So creating content for Twitter is different to creating content for Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Medium, vice versa. So right now, the main source of our content is the website, which is www.pacejournal.co, and Instagram, which is just Pace Journal. But eventually we will be creating native content for all platforms.
Okay, cool. So in 10 years time from now, where would you and maybe Pace Journal like to be? What's your vision?
Crazy question. I always say that I don't like to think too far ahead, because Fadil, another good friend of mine, he always said to me, the 15-year-old you will never think like the 20-year-old you, and the 20-year-old you will never think like the 25-year-old you. And another good friend of mine said to me, one day, someone who's one day older than you has 1 year's worth of experience on you, or something like that, something along those lines. Okay. But it was a very good analogy. So realistically, I don't know. Where I'd like to be is in a position where potentially we can exit, or just keep serving the people, man.
Cool.
Just keep serving the people and having the largest platform of fast bowling information.
Cool. And is there any kind of like message or anywhere you would like to send? I've only got a very kind of niche or small audience at the moment, but it will scale up. Where would you like to direct them to get any value from you?
Mimboso.
Okay.
You, because I actually listened to your podcast. Before you asked me to come on it, I actually listened to it.
Oh, thanks.
So I like it, and I've been following your stuff for a long time anyway. Ruben Tabares, obviously I'm sure you're going to plug him.
Yeah.
Unbelievable health expert.
Yeah.
And obviously Pace Journal. If you know anyone who plays cricket, or you play cricket yourself, Pace Journal is the place.
Yeah. So even if it's not just cricket, even if it's just from pure inspiration, motivation, and educational point of view, Pace Journal is another great place for them to look.
Yeah. If you want to see how we're a startup, if you want to see the sort of moves that we make and how we're going to develop, because we always make iterations.
Yeah.
So we always try to develop our product and make it better and better as we go on. So if you want to keep your eyes on that and see how we do it and take inspiration from it and put it in what your own project is, yeah, Pace Journal, you come and hit us up.
So at the end of every podcast, I usually leave it on my kind of catchphrase, which is be happy, never content. And the reason why I say that is because I believe happiness is a state of mind. It's not just over there or here or another country. You know, you're either kind of happy to a degree or not. And sometimes people think they have to do a certain thing to be happy. So I think you can kind of change that with the psychology. Yeah. But then it's almost a conflicting message at the end, which is never content, because they will link being content and happy and everything else. What that means to me is the pursuit of lots of different goals. So like business, family goals, just had a kid, so obviously that's very, very important. Wellness, nutrition, training. I'm never content with it because I'm always pursuing it. I can never actually get to my goal, but that was keeps me happy. So if you were to like articulate, be happy but never content, what does that kind of mean to you?
It's similar to what I actually, my catchphrase, which is love the process, not the result.
Okay.
And I think for me, for what you say in terms of be happy is just enjoy what you're doing.
Yeah.
But never content in terms of don't be complacent. And it doesn't end there.
Yeah.
Like you can keep getting better and better.
Yeah.
Which is exactly what I believe in. So I love the process, not the result. For me, like you said in the start, success isn't a monetary thing. It's not a number. It's being able to do what I love, being able to help people, and just fueling that passion. I don't work. Someone asked me how many days do you work? I said 0.
Yeah.
And they were like, well, how many days do you work? I was like, every day, 7 days a week.
Yeah.
I'm fulfilling my passion and I love it.
Yeah.
For me, it's not a job.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I would interpret what you said.
Nice one, man. Thank you for your time.
No worries, man. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, thank you. Nice one.